The day I logged in as myself, the meeting countdown said 10 seconds as my cursor hovered over the camera button, still switched off. The little red slash across the icon felt like the only barrier between who I was and who I was about to become. I glanced down at myself, at the blouse, at the skirt, at hands I barely recognized. I was nervous about which version of me was about to answer them, because the person about to log in wasn't the one who started this job search. The screen flickered. I unmuted, and just like that, I was in. But to understand this moment, you need to know how I got there. You need to know about the weeks before, the pressure, the silence, the decisions you make when no one's watching, and the decisions you make when the rent is 3 weeks overdue. My name is James, 23 years old, living alone in a one-bedroom apartment that cost more than I could afford even when I had a job. The thing about being unemployed isn't the boredom. It's not the endless free time or the daytime TV or the slow erosion of your daily routine. It's the silence. It's waking up and realizing that no one needs you today, that your phone won't ring with a work call, that your calendar is empty, that the world is moving forward, and you're standing still, watching your savings account drop lower every single week. I'd been out of work for 2 months. Laid off. Budget cuts. The usual corporate script delivered over a 10-minute Zoom call by someone who couldn't even look me in the eye through the camera. At first, I thought it would be temporary. A few weeks, maybe a month. I had some savings. Not much, but enough to get by if I was careful. I stopped ordering food. Started cooking. Canceled subscriptions. Stopped going out. Stopped answering texts from friends who wanted to grab drinks or see a movie because I couldn't afford to say yes and I was too embarrassed to say why. But careful wasn't enough. By week 6, I was choosing which bills to pay. The kind that makes you stop answering phone calls because you know it's a creditor. The kind that makes you walk past your mailbox without checking it because you already know what's inside. Overdue, final notice. Urgent, I applied everywhere. Retail. Fast food, warehouses, call centers, administrative assistant roles, data entry, anything that said entry level or no experience required. Most didn't respond. The ones that did offered $10, maybe $12 an hour. Part-time, no benefits, irregular schedules that made it impossible to take a second job. I wasn't asking for luxury. I wasn't trying to build a career or chase some dream. I just wanted relief. I wanted to sleep without waking up in a panic at 4 in the morning, chest tight, brain running calculations I'd already done 100 times. I wanted to open my fridge and not feel guilty about eating. I wanted to stop feeling like I was failing at something as basic as existing. That morning, the morning everything changed. I woke up to another rejection email. Thank you for your interest, but we've decided to move forward with other candidates. I sat there in bed, staring at my phone, feeling that familiar weight settle over me like a blanket made of lead. I almost gave up. I almost closed my laptop and accepted a night shift stocking shelves at a grocery store for $10 an hour. It wouldn't be enough, but it would be something. But I didn't. I scrolled just a little further. It was buried on page 3 of a job board I'd been refreshing obsessively for weeks. Virtual assistant, remote minus $30 per hour, flexible schedule. $30 an hour. I sat up straighter. Read it again. Remote work, flexible hours, administrative support, scheduling, email management, research, basic bookkeeping. I could do all of that. I'd done all of that in my last job. My heart started to beat faster, not with anxiety this time, but with something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. I clicked into the listing, started reading the details. Organized, detail-oriented, strong communication skills, proficiency in Microsoft Office and Google Workspace, reliable internet connection. Check, check, check. I was already drafting the cover letter in my head, already imagining the interview, already calculating what $30 an hour would mean, how many bills I could pay, how much breathing room I'd have, how quickly I could get back on my feet. And then I saw it. Near the bottom of the listing. One line. Easy to miss if you were skimming. Preference will be given to female applicants. I stopped. Read it again. Female applicants only. And just like that, the hope drained out of me. I leaned back in my chair, stared at the screen. It wasn't illegal. Not exactly. Preference isn't the same as requirement. But it was clear. They wanted a female. I felt a flash of anger. Frustration. The unfairness of it. I'd been applying for 2 months. 2 months of rejections and low offers and dead ends. And the first decent opportunity I found in weeks was looking for someone who wasn't me. I closed the laptop, stood up, paced around my apartment. It was a small space. Didn't take long to walk the perimeter. Kitchen to living room to bedroom and back again. I tried to let it go. Tried to tell myself it didn't matter. There would be other listings, other opportunities. But there weren't. And I couldn't apply. Or could I? The thought came quietly, almost like a whisper. I pushed it away, sat back down, opened the laptop again, stared at the listing. The interview was virtual. The whole job was virtual. No one would ever see me in person. No one would ever know. I felt my pulse quicken again. But this time, it wasn't hope. It was something else. Something darker. Something desperate. I didn't want to be someone else. I just wanted to survive. I closed the laptop again, walked to the window. I thought about my rent, about the notice on my door, about the phone calls I wasn't answering. I thought about what $30 an hour could mean. I thought about how no one would ever have to know. And then I thought, how would I even do it? The question hung there. Not if. How? That was the moment I stopped asking if I could apply and started asking how. I checked my bank account. $47.32. Rent was due in 5 days. I had 2 choices. Give up or try something I never thought I'd do. I thought about it for hours. Paced. Stared at the job listing until I had it memorized. I was qualified. Overqualified even. I could do the work. I knew I could. The only thing standing between me and this job was a perception, an assumption, a preference that had nothing to do with skill or ability. And the interview was virtual. No one would be in the room but me. No one would ever see me outside of a video call. If I could just get through the interview, if I could just present myself in a way that matched what they were looking for, I could prove I was capable. I could do the job. I could do it well. The decision came slowly, then all at once. I grabbed my jacket. There was a thrift store 3 blocks away. I'd passed it 100 times and never gone in. The walk there felt longer than it should have. Every step felt like I was crossing some invisible line I couldn't come back from. The store was quiet, mostly empty. Racks of clothes organized by color and size. A faint smell of detergent and old fabric. I felt exposed, like everyone was watching me even though no one was paying attention. I moved quickly, didn't let myself think too hard. I needed something professional, something that would look right on camera, something that said competent, organized, trustworthy. I found a blouse. White. Crisp. Long sleeves. A skirt. Leopard print. High-waisted. Just above the knee. A belt. Black. Simple. I grabbed a few other things. Accessories. Small touches that would complete the look. At the counter, the cashier barely glanced at me, scanned the items. Bagged them. $23.50, she said. I handed over the cash. She didn't ask questions. Didn't make assumptions. To her, I was just another customer. I walked home with the bag clutched tight against my chest, heart pounding, mind racing. I didn't know it then, but that was the last moment I thought of this as pretending. Back in my apartment, I locked the door, set the bag down on my bed, stared at it for a long time. This was it, the point of no return. I could still back out. I could return the clothes. I could keep searching for jobs that wanted someone masculine, but I didn't. I opened the bag, laid everything out carefully. The blouse, the skirt, the belt, the accessories. I'd also stopped at a drugstore on the way home, picked up a few things. Makeup. Nothing expensive. Just the basics. Foundation. Blush. Eyeliner. Mascara. Lipstick. I watched a few tutorials on my phone. Learned the steps. Practiced. The first attempt was terrible. Uneven. Too heavy-handed. I washed it off. Started again. Slower this time. More careful. Foundation. Blend. Blush on the apples of the cheeks. Eyeliner. Thin. Steady. Mascara. Lipstick. Muted pink. Professional. Not too bold. I looked in the mirror. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. I changed clothes. The blouse fit well, rolled the sleeves up to my elbows, casual, but put together. The skirt was snug around my waist. The belt cinched it, emphasized the shape. Pantyhose, heels, black. Simple. I'd ordered a wig online days earlier. Blonde, shoulder length, soft layers, side-swept bangs. It had arrived that morning. I adjusted it, smoothed it down, looked in the mirror again, and I didn't recognize myself. Not in a jarring way, not in a way that felt wrong, in a way that felt calm. There was no panic, no rushing, no frantic energy, just focus. For the first time that week, I wasn't thinking about bills or rent or rejection emails. I was thinking about the interview, about the questions they might ask, about how I would answer. I sat down at my desk, adjusted the camera angle, made sure the lighting was right, checked my posture, straightened my shoulders, took a breath. When I sat down in front of the camera again, I knew I needed a name. James wouldn't work. I thought about it, ran through options in my head, and then it came to me. Janet. Simple. Professional. Unremarkable. Janet. I said it out loud. Hi, I'm Janet. It felt strange at first. Foreign. But the more I said it, the more it settled. Janet. I was ready. The interview. Janet logs in. The meeting link went live at 2 p.m. I clicked join, waited as the screen loaded, and then there she was, the interviewer. Mid-40s, maybe. Warm smile. Professional blazer. Office background. She greeted me by name, without hesitation, as if there was never any doubt. I replied, "Thank you for having me." My voice came out softer than I expected. Higher, not forced, just adjusted. She smiled. "Great to meet you. I'm Linda. I'll be walking you through the interview today." "Nice to meet you, Linda." The first few minutes were standard. "Tell me about yourself. Why are you interested in this position? What's your experience with administrative work?" I answered carefully. Kept my voice steady, my answers clear. But inside, I was terrified. Every second, I waited for her to pause, to narrow her eyes, to say, "Wait a minute." But she didn't. She nodded along, took notes, asked follow-up questions, and somewhere around the third question, something shifted. I stopped thinking about my voice. Stopped worrying about the camera angle or the wig or whether my makeup looked right. I started listening, really listening. Linda asked about organization systems, about managing multiple calendars, about handling conflicting priorities. And I answered, not as James trying to sound like Janet, just as someone who knew the answers. "I use a combination of digital tools and manual check-ins," I said. "Color-coded calendars help me visualize overlapping commitments, and I set reminders at strategic intervals to ensure nothing falls through the cracks." Linda smiled. "That's thorough. I like that." She asked about communication style. We talked for 30 minutes. She asked about software proficiency, problem solving, time management. I answered every question with calm precision. And then, near the end, she said something that caught me off guard. "You know, Janet, I have to say, you have a really grounded presence. A lot of candidates get flustered in interviews, but you seem very composed." I paused. "Thank you," I said. "I think I know what I'm capable of. And I'm confident I can do this job well." She smiled. "I believe you." The interview wrapped up shortly after. Linda thanked me for my time, said she'd be in touch within a few days. We said our goodbyes. The screen went black. And I sat there, still dressed as Janet, still wearing the wig, the makeup, the heels. I didn't move. I just sat there in the silence, waiting for something I didn't expect. Clarity. Somewhere between the third question and the fourth answer, I'd stopped acting. I'd stopped pretending to be someone I wasn't. I'd just been. Capable. Clear. Confident. Janet wasn't a disguise. Janet was a version of me I didn't know existed. I knew some people would call this dishonesty, that I'd crossed a line. But the interview hadn't tested my gender. It tested my ability, my organization, my focus, my calm under pressure. And for the first time in months, I passed on my own terms. I logged out of the meeting, but I didn't change right away. I stayed in the chair, in the outfit, in the quiet. I looked at my reflection in the black screen of my laptop. Blonde hair, red nails, calm expression. I thought about the interview, about Linda's words. Composed, grounded, confident. I thought about how I'd felt during those 30 minutes. Not scared, not anxious, focused. I sat there for an hour, maybe more, just thinking. The email came 2 days later. I was lying in bed, scrolling aimlessly through my phone, when the notification popped up. Subject: job offer. Virtual assistant position. My heart stopped. I opened it. Dear Janet, we're pleased to offer you the position of virtual assistant at a rate of $30 per hour. I read the email 3 times. Then I set my phone down, and I cried, not because I was relieved, though I was, not because the financial pressure was finally lifting, though it was. I cried because for the first time in months, I felt like I'd done something right. I didn't become Janet because I needed the job. I succeeded because Janet showed me how capable I could be. Janet didn't replace James. Janet became a part of me, a part one didn't know was there. When I started the job, I worked as Janet. I dressed the same way I had for the interview, did my makeup, wore the wig, not because I had to, because I wanted to. Because when I was Janet, I felt calm, I felt focused. I felt capable in a way I hadn't felt as James in a long time. Work became easier. I managed schedules, answered emails, handled logistics, solved problems. And I was good at it. Linda, my boss, checked in regularly, praised my work, said I was one of the most organized assistants she'd ever worked with. I started getting bonuses, small at first, then larger. My financial situation stabilized. I paid rent, caught up on bills, started saving again. But it wasn't just about the money. It was about the feeling. The quiet confidence that came when I sat down at my desk as Janet. The sense that I was exactly where I was supposed to be. I started to realize something. This wasn't deception. This was discovery. James had always been struggling, pushing, fighting, trying to prove himself in a world that didn't seem to have space for him. Janet didn't have to push. Janet just existed. And that was enough. People responded to that. They listened. They trusted. They valued the work. I thought of dressing as Janet outside of work sometimes. Not all the time. Not every day. But on weekends. When I went to the coffee shop to work on personal projects. When I ran errands. It felt like breathing. Like I'd been holding my breath for years, and finally, I could let it out. I wasn't pretending anymore. I wasn't performing. I was just me, all of me, James and Janet. Not 2 separate people, just 2 sides of the same person. And for the first time in my life, that felt okay. There were hard days, of course. Days when I questioned everything. Days when I wondered if I was lying to myself. If this was all just some elaborate coping mechanism. Some way to avoid dealing with who I really was. I'd sit in front of the mirror, half-dressed, makeup half done, and ask myself, who are you? What are you doing? Is this real? A minute gate. And the answer was always the same. Yes. This was real. Janet was real. The feeling was real. The calm, the confidence, the clarity. That was real. I started reading. Articles, forums, stories from people who felt the way I did. People who didn't fit neatly into one box. People who found parts of themselves they didn't expect. People who built lives that made sense to them, even if they didn't make sense to anyone else. And I realized I wasn't alone. I wasn't broken. I wasn't pretending. I was just becoming. I learned that identity isn't fixed. It's not something you're born with and carry unchanged for the rest of your life. It's fluid, evolving, layered. You can be more than one thing. You can be James and Janet. You can be strong and soft. You can be who you were and who you're becoming. And none of it has to make sense to anyone but you. I learned that survival sometimes means taking risks, that desperation can be a doorway, that the person you become when you have no other choice might be the person you were meant to be all along. I learned that confidence isn't about knowing all the answers. It's about trusting yourself enough to figure them out. And I learned that the version of you that saves your life might be the one you never thought you were allowed to be. That day, I logged in as myself, desperate, scared, running out of time. And I logged out as Janet, calm, capable, and finally hopeful. But they were never two different people. They were always the same. And if you're watching this, if you're listening to this story, I want you to know, you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to fit neatly into one box. You're allowed to explore, to question, to discover. You're allowed to be more than one thing. You're allowed to become. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And if this story resonated with you, if it made you think or feel or question, please leave a like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. The camera still turns on every morning. But now, I don't wonder who's going to answer. The end? The Gender Diary exists to light that path with shared stories. Whether you found connection in this narrative, you're on your own journey of gender exploration, or you're here seeking understanding, your subscription fuels our mission. Every subscriber empowers us to keep illuminating these authentic experiences for our community. Kindly drop a comment below. Your voice adds to the tapestry of experiences that makes this space meaningful. Until our next story unfolds.